Eric, welcome to the show today, brother.
Thanks for having me.
I'm truly honored and excited to have you on the show today. And want to start off with a quick introduction. Real quick, actually, you have a lot of stuff to cover, so I don't know how quick it'll be, but let me give you an introduction and then we'll dive right into it. Uh, Eric Gilmet is a decorated U.S. Navy Chief, Hospital Corpsman, and was part of the MARSOC Special Operations Command with a distinguished career service in his country. He served alongside some of the elite warfighters in the U.S. military, providing life-saving medical support under fire, earning the deep respect of fellow operators. Beginning his military journey as a Navy corpsman, Eric quickly rose through the ranks, completed rigorous training to join the ranks of MARSOC as a corpsman, and he deployed to some of the world's most dangerous environments, deploying from combat readiness and expert trauma to his unit during high-risk missions. Throughout his career, Eric exemplified the highest standards of honor, commitment, and warrior ethos. He is best known for many of the, or excuse me, he is best known to many as the MARSOC 3, a group of raiders who were thrust into the national spotlight in Iraq. Eric's experience exposed flaws in the military justice and sparked a nationwide movement advocating for fairness and due process and for the special operations personnel. Despite facing immense personal and professional adversities, Eric has remained to steadfast example of resilience, integrity, and leadership. Today, he continues to advocate for service members' rights and honors the legacy of his brothers. Eric, anything I missed there, brother, that you want to add in?
Nope. Sound good. Thank you.
Sounds good, man. Yeah, you did. You had a great career. How many years? Speaking of careers, how long did you serve, Eric?
21 years.
21 years. Okay, so you retired fully from the service then when you got out, right?
Correct.
Awesome, awesome, perfect. And did you join the Navy right out of boot or right out of high school? And did you know what MOS you wanted?
Yes, I did join right out of high school. I enlisted I think it was spring of 2002 and my senior year, and then I left for basic training in at the end of the summer in September.
Awesome, awesome. So you went to Great Lakes, and did you already know you wanted to be a corpsman right out of like for your A school?
Yeah, I my contract when I joined was to go to corps school. So
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Good deal. And how long is the training to become a corpsman in the Navy?
I know it's changed over the years, but when I went through, I believe it took, I think it was like 3 months, maybe.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, we were waiting to class up for a while, so I can't remember exactly how long it took, but I think it was a few months, and then that's just to get your basic. So our NEC or Navy Enlisted Classification, which is the equivalent of MOS in the Marine Corps. Um, when you're done with Corps School, you're a quad zero, and then from there you go to different C schools to get different NECs. So when I was done with Corps School, I went to Field Medical Service School, and then that's where I became an 8404, which was a field medic.
Okay. Awesome, awesome. And how long were you a field medic until you wound up joining the special forces?
I did that job for about 5 or 6 years.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, I was a second class petty officer, so I was an E5
Wow.
when I went through the recon corpsman pipeline.
Wow. Wow. Okay. And what attracted you to that?
Uh, so where I lived in near base, one of my neighbors was a recon marine,
Okay.
and so I knew what he did, and I knew what recon was. But I remember on a few occasions, guys from his platoon would come over and hang out at his house, and I remember thinking to myself, man, I really want something like that. I want to be a part of a community like that. Um, and I actually almost got out of the military after my first 5 years, and I told my wife, I said, hey, I really want to try doing this and stay in, and she said, sure, go ahead. So, yeah.
That's awesome. So you saw that this is something that you wanted to follow, and then the training for that is pretty vigorous as well, just like regular special forces, right?
Yes, it is, especially for recon corpsmen because we have to go through the basic reconnaissance course.
Right.
So I did that. Army Basic Airborne, the Special Operations Combat Medic course,
That's,
dive school, a Marine combatant diver, and dive medicine. That whole pipeline took me a year and 5 months to
oh
complete.
wow, holy cow! All
Yeah.
right. And what was the toughest one, do you think?
Uh, Combatant diver was a tough course. That one was
Were
really
you
tough.
were you a strong swimmer before going into that or no?
I was okay. Yeah, I tell people I didn't swim for speed. I swam to survive. So
Okay.
I was able to stay alive. So that was the key for me. So
Yeah, it's a different story when your hands are tied behind your back in a pool, right?
yeah, there is definitely a psychological aspect to it that's a little unnerving. But if you can break through that, then you can make it through it. So.
Awesome. Did you was there ever time it's like, man, I don't know what the hell did I sign up for? What am I doing here? Am I going to make it during the training?
Oh yeah, there absolutely was. I remember we were doing our 6 mile surface fin, and we're in groups when we do it, and I remember looking up, and there was this house to my left along the shore, pretty noticeable house with these big white pillars, and I remember looking up at it and then swimming for about 30 minutes, and then I looked back up and it was still there. So we hadn't moved. We were fighting the current, and I remember thinking to myself, "What the hell am I doing here right now?"
Yeah, it's definitely psychological for you.
Mhm.
Uh, well, and so then you finished school and then you got assigned to a team right after that.
Yes, I got orders to Second Marine Raider Battalion, Second MSOB at the time.
Okay,
Yeah, so I showed up there, and it was May of 2000 and uh, May 2010 when I got to MARSOC.
nice, nice. Did everybody pretty much accepted you as one of the members, right?
Yeah, I mean, you still have to prove your worth when you're there, and you're low on the totem pole, right? So um, you have to earn you have to earn the right to be in the team, and earn their respect, and I was able to do that, and I loved it. I loved being there and being in the team. It was great.
That's awesome. That's awesome. What was the most valuable lesson you learned with being with the MARSOC teams?
Um, I don't know if I really. It's kind of a deep question. I never really thought about that. I do know when I got there, I did have a great appreciation for where I was because I did start my time in the infantry. Um, so I remember when I got there, and the training and the quality uh, of men that I served with. I was very humbled that I was able to do that stuff, and very appreciative of that I was able to be a part of that.
That's awesome. Yeah, congratulations to you. Not too many people can make it through that. So great job. Says a lot about you, which is great.
Thank you.
So you worked all over the globe and deployed many locations. What's one mission that stands out to you the most during your career?
Yeah, it was definitely my missions to Afghanistan.
Okay,
Um, those ones stood out a lot. That was during my time at MARSOC and Golf Company Team One. We deployed there in 2011 and in 2013 to the same location, doing the same mission. Uh, those ones stick out the most in my mind, simply because it was what I wanted to do, right? Like when I went
right.
into this pipeline, I was like, man, this is exactly what I've always wanted to do during my time, and I was very grateful that I got to do that and serve my country over there.
That's awesome. Uh, during during any of the battles that you were in, was there ever a moment like, man, I may not make it out of here? It's like this might be it.
Uh, no, I mean, we definitely got into a lot of firefights, but I never felt that way
Okay,
during any of
awesome.
them.
Okay,
Um, yeah.
awesome. What was the biggest lesson you learned by traveling all over the world?
Well, one of the biggest things I learned was to appreciate what we have here in America. That's
Yeah.
for sure. So, uh,
I think
you know,
everyone should travel all over the world, to kind of get an
yeah,
idea.
it's when you see people without electricity and plumbing and even like garbage service. One thing I tell friends of mine here is the garbage man is the most underappreciated job in America because if they didn't have that, it would be be all over your front yard because that's where it is over there. So
Right, right. Yeah, I was in New York like 3, 4 years ago, and I saw all the garbages up front because they didn't really have a different like alleys and stuff. So it's like, oh, it's kind of interesting. So, but yeah, that's a great lesson. Uh, how did you forge the mindset needed to survive and lead in the most extreme conditions? Was that
um,
was that from when you were growing up? Was that from the training?
yeah, I would say that the training prepares you for
Okay.
that.
Yep.
The thing to be able to act over there and do a good job. One thing that drove me a lot, and I think this drives a lot of other people too, is you don't want to let down your teammates.
Right. Exactly.
So you have to
Yeah.
make sure you're performing good and you got a clear mind and you're able to do your job. So that was a big thing. Just make sure you do your job and do it well, and everything will be okay.
Exactly. Exactly. How important was physical fitness for you then and now in like nutrition? Do you still practice all that?
Uh, Never really practiced the nutrition part. I enjoyed eating what I eat, and I do enjoy a good cocktail.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, physical fitness was huge for me then, and the big thing for me was cardiovascular endurance.
Okay. Yep.
That's really something that I focused on. Uh, Getting huge. I'm not a huge guy anyways, so it's hard to compete against the guys that can do that stuff. So no, it was huge. It was very important because there's definitely moments over there where you better be physically fit or you're gonna fall behind. So and you don't want again. This kind of goes back to not letting down your teammates. So you don't want to fall behind.
So were you like a big runner or what were you doing for cardio?
Yeah, I did. I would do a lot of running, a lot of row machine. I would just incorporate a lot of cardio stuff into
Okay.
whatever my workout was. So
That's awesome.
yeah, no, yeah. I remember in 2013. I remember a lot of guys trying to bulk up, and I remember thinking to myself, I'm gonna lose weight, damn it. And I got down to like 170, but I
Oh, were
felt
you
great.
really?
Oh
Wow, that's
yeah, I
awesome.
felt great. I lightened my load, and guys would be struggling going up hills, and I would just be running up those things like, see you at the top. So, yeah. So,
It makes a big difference when you're lean and mean,
oh yeah,
It's
yeah.
like,
It was
yeah,
huge. It was huge that difference. I didn't lose any strength. But I just lost. Yeah, I think when I went over there, I was probably 185, and I think I lost about 10 pounds, 15 pounds, and I felt great.
yeah.
I don't think I'll ever get back to that, but I'm not running up hills anymore with a gun, so it's okay.
Yeah, that's true. A little bit different environment. And where do you live now, Eric?
I live in Michigan.
Michigan? Nice. All right,
Yeah,
good deal. Good
yeah.
deal. Not too many hills in Michigan either, right?
Up north there are, but not where I'm at. So
Awesome, awesome. So you're actually a lot around a lot of different combat zones. Have had a lot of other guests that have been in various missions. Did you find yourself dealing with the effects of PTSD and TBI, and how did you deal with those?
yeah, I would say my PTSD mostly stems from the loss of a good friend that I had.
Okay,
His name was Travis Twiggs. He was my platoon sergeant when I was in the infantry.
okay.
He had a huge impact on my life. He was a mentor, a father figure to me,
Oh
and
wow.
in 2008 he took his own life
Oh
from
man.
his own struggles with PTSD. So
Okay.
out of like the gunshots or like the explosions you hear from fireworks stuff like that, like nothing ever phases me with that stuff. I don't really get rattled by that stuff.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, my big thing is just I think Travis. I think about him every single day. I don't
Right.
think there's a day that goes by where he doesn't come across my mind. Uh,
Right.
so that's really where it stems from is that. But as far as dealing with it, I think um, one thing that I tried to do when I was in the military and was I made a point to separate my military life from my family life. So I
Okay.
was able to leave all that at the door.
Nice.
And I think that helped me a great deal in for dealing with those issues.
Yeah, I think it's great to segment stuff, right? So
Mm.
you keep stuff in different compartments. but some people don't have that capability, and then, it's all about the mission, all about the special forces, and they can't get that out of their head, which which
Yeah.
is uh, which is interesting to me. But that's the way people are built differently. So,
Yeah, exactly.
but there's a lot of different programs out there. Fred Galvin introduced us. I know he has that Hooks of Hope for special operators. So
Yeah.
I think there's just something that needs to be done to share with all these guys. It's like, hey, you're not the only ones going through this, right? There's pretty much a lot of the people that are going through the same thing. Let's bond and talk about it and try to get it out of your head, I think, is a big
Yeah.
plus. So, all right. So tell us a little bit about, so you were in 21 years, Afghanistan, Iraq, right? You were as well?
Yeah.
And Iraq is where the incident happened with the MARSOC 3, correct?
Correct.
All right, perfect. Can you tell us the story of what happened for people that don't know about the MARSOC 3 story?
Yeah. So myself and two other friends of mine, Danny Dreyer and Josh Negron, we went out on New Year's Eve into Erbil, Kurdistan, which is in northern Iraq. Um, had a bite to eat, hung out, celebrated the New Year. Afterwards, we went to a local bar in town, and that's where we ran into Rick Rodriguez. And uh, Rick, for some reason that night, had a problem with me.
Okay.
I don't know why. Yeah, I knew him from the camp that we worked at. He was a contractor, but our jobs never forced us to work together or interact. Um, and he was basically being a jerk that night,
Okay.
and the bartenders made him leave. He was waiting outside for us. Danny confronted him to try to get him to relax, and he didn't, and he attacked Danny. Um, and then Josh came in and knocked out Rick with one punch.
Okay.
Yeah, and then his buddies were gonna just leave him there. They weren't doing anything, so I said,
Oh
"Hey, let's
man.
let's get him the hell out of here."
Right.
We took him back to the camp to his room, and I checked him out and monitored him throughout the night. And uh, one of his buddies, I passed the reins on to him to just keep an eye on him. And about an hour after I had left, he came and got me. And Rick had vomited and was choking to death on his own vomit.
Oh wow.
And we took him to the hospital. I did CPR on the way, and he eventually died because of the lack of oxygen to his brain. And uh, we told the unit what had happened that night about the altercation and being out, and they decided to blame the three of us and charged us all with his death.
So how does it come from self-defense to going to actually helping someone, make sure that they're okay, monitoring them, all that, to this is your guys' fault? It doesn't make sense to me. Who the hell came up with that crazy idea, basically?
I mean, that's the $1 million question that'll never be answered, right?
Right.
Nobody's going to give an honest opinion of that, but so I can only make assumptions. But and not to go too far down the rabbit hole is, during this time you have the incident with Eddie Gallagher, you have the Molly case, you got issues with Green Berets in South America with the prostitution and things like that. So SOCOM is under a microscope from Congress at this point, and bam, now this happens. So
We have
instead
we
of
have to
instead,
investigate, see what the hell happened, and
yeah, and we're going to
put
blame
blame
these
on them.
guys. Yeah, it was easy to point the finger instead of doing the adult thing, the not even the adult thing, the what a
Common
leader should
sense. Right.
what a leader should really do of saying, hey, we got to look into this first and see exactly what's going on,
Right.
because there could be foul play here, or there may not be, right? So if they had done more digging and been actually, had the intestinal fortitude to stand up for us and do a better investigation of what happened and get all the information, it might have been different. But that's not
But you
that's not
guys
how it's done.
reported at the command as well, right?
Yeah, we did.
So
Yeah.
you guys reported at the command. So somebody else came in after the fact and
Once
gave a
we
different
once we
story.
said, hey, this is what happened last night, they confined us to our rooms, took away our guns, took away our
Oh, they come
phones.
find you right away?
Yeah, I mean, we weren't prisoners, but they were like, "Hey, stay in your room. You can eat and go to the gym. That's
Okay.
about it."
Wow.
Um, but then, I think it was later on that day, an NCIS agent showed up. So,
Did that just blow your mind?
uh, not really. I
No?
had a feeling after we told the command, I remember telling Danny, I said, "This is going to get bad,
Oh
real
man.
fast."
Okay.
I knew. I knew it was what was gonna happen. So
Wow. That's
yeah,
good. I'm glad you, yeah, I'm glad you actually saw that before, so you didn't get blindsided. So there was no leaders or supporting you guys then at all, right?
no, no, none.
All right. So walk me through what happened after the day, that one day. What happened next?
Um, well, we all lawyered up,
Okay.
and I remember talking to my lawyer, Colby. He said, "Don't say anything to anybody." I said, "No
Right.
problem." Uh, I believe it was 2 days later they sent us to Bahrain because that's where the NCIS headquarters is for that area for the Middle East. Um, they brought us in, uh, fingerprinted us, DNA, took pictures, and gave us our charges. And I know I said this, and so did the other two. They said, "I don't want to. I'm not going to answer questions without my lawyer present." And
Right. Exactly. Yep.
that ended it. So uh, then they sent us to Kuwait for a couple weeks, and we ended up making our way back to the United States.
Wow.
And then yeah, and then we came back. That was about it.
So were you guys arrested, put in confinement,
No, no,
charged?
they
No.
didn't. No, they didn't confine. I mean, we were, we hadn't been charged yet. We were accused. We were
Okay.
accused of the crimes, but we hadn't been officially charged. We didn't get officially charged until December of 2000. What was that? 19? Yeah, December of 2019 is when we got officially charged.
So bottom line,
12 months later,
wow.
11, 12 months, whatever it was. Yeah.
So obviously they thought you guys were lying about the whole scenario, or else they wouldn't have proceeded with that. So
Uh, I don't know if it was necessarily a lying thing. I don't know. I don't know what their thought
that's what
process
yeah,
on it.
that's what I think at least. That's my opinion, guy,
I think it's a
audience.
fair opinion. Yeah.
Yeah. So 2019, you got charged. What happened then?
We did our God, I can't remember what some of these things are called. Our Article 15, which is basically
Yep.
the beginning thing where they kind of go through everything.
Correct.
That happened, and then I remember, I believe my trial was set for May of
Okay.
2020. Um, but then, as we all know, what was it? February, March 2020 is when COVID
Oh
happened,
yes. Yep.
and
Yep.
that delayed everything, and basically kind of propelled us into um, everything that unfolded for the next 4 years. After that, with my charges being dismissed and all that stuff.
Yeah, because I did see the video with you guys out there, which is pretty good that they had that. Did they have that initially, that video?
Oh yeah, they had all this stuff.
So
So
they
I
had all
mean,
that information and they still proceeded to try
yeah.
you guys.
Well, I mean, God, there's a lot to talk about. So you never know. You don't know exactly what evidence or not evidence. You don't know the story that the uh, the prosecution is going to tell when you get to trial, right?
Right.
Obviously, that
Exactly.
all came out when Danny and Josh went to trial. Well,
Right.
they're breaking down the video. The prosecution is, and they're saying that because you can see Josh punch Rick, and then he's kind of on top of Rick, right? Well, what happened is he punched. He put a lot of body weight behind that punch, and then when Rick fell, he basically like fell on top of Rick,
Got
and
it.
caught
Got it. Yeah.
himself.
Yeah. The momentum. Yep.
Yeah, they said, well, Josh hit him and then came down and hit him again in the face. So he was on the ground.
Got it.
Well, the reason why I say all this is because, and this is what's really messed up, is when you say that, like, okay, we think Josh did this, but you have to have somebody to corroborate what you're saying. Well, they
Exactly.
had one witness that said that. They had one guy that said, yeah, Josh hit him, knocked him out, and then hit him multiple times when he was on the ground. Every other witness that they had, which was probably five or six more, they all said, no, he didn't hit him twice. He hit him once. So it's like, what's ridiculous, they have one dude who, oh, by the way, he was charged with making a false statement to a federal agent.
Oh,
So it's a
wow.
lie. So he's a liar anyways, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So anyways, I say all that just to kind of tell you how messed up it was, right? And the fact that, you do have evidence that basically exonerates us, but the unit didn't care, right? They only cared about the prosecution side of the story, which is another messed up thing about the military legal system is that's who they're getting all their information from.
Exactly. Right.
And our defense lawyers did reach out to the command and say, hey, we would like to sit down with the general and tell him, hey, here's our side of the story, so you're tracking.
And he didn't do it?
They didn't want to talk to him. No.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow. That's it doesn't make any sense at all why they do that, and we've heard that in other cases. So it's great that you're talking about that. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Uh, so the command wasn't listening to you guys. They were listening just to the prosecution. They had fake, did not a witness that was not collaborating with the other ones or speaking the truth with the other ones, which is crazy. So during this whole time, were you guys ever confined then or no?
Nope, we weren't
Oh,
confined.
okay.
We didn't even have to go into work actually.
Oh, wow.
Well, I remember leading up to COVID, I would
Which kind of stinks when you're in, right? Yeah.
yeah, it stunk. But once COVID came around, there was that phase of, only essential personnel were coming into work, and on the list of essential personnel at second MRB, I was at the bottom, right? So I definitely wasn't coming in. And then once people started rolling back in, I said, hey, you guys have nothing to do for me. I'm not fucking coming in, right?
Right,
Everyone,
exactly.
they're like, okay. So, um, yeah, I think maybe a handful of times I would go in and do some stuff, but that was just like personal things.
Okay, gotcha. Wow. Did the and was there a lot of media coverage on this?
No, well, there was, but it wasn't anything big, right?
Okay.
Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, none of them picked it up. It was, a few articles here and there, and uh, you get the Marine Corps Times, you'd get soft rep, things like that, but nothing big.
Gotcha, gotcha. Was there any leadership that stood up for you guys at all?
Um, I mean, like, what do you mean by standing up? You mean like
Like,
going to the
hey,
command and say, hey, this is wrong, you need to stop?
yeah, supporting you guys and yeah.
That way? No, nobody
No,
did
nobody
that.
did. Okay,
Nobody did.
gotcha,
No.
gotcha.
And I'd
Gotcha.
ask people to do that, but they wouldn't do it. So
Wow, man. I guess a lot of people are in it for themselves. I know that UAP helped you guys out a lot, right?
yes, they did.
With Bull. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I remember
yeah,
seeing
they were
some.
great. Yeah.
I remember seeing some videos with him on there. So during this whole time you're at home, were you positive about the outcome? Were you doubtful about the outcome? What were your thoughts?
Uh, I mean, I always felt confident with my lawyer if we had
Okay.
gone to trial because he's a very good lawyer.
Oh, good.
Um,
Did you
Thank
guys all
God I
have the
never.
same lawyer?
No, no, we all had different lawyers.
Okay.
So, luckily I never had to go to trial.
Okay.
So I never had to live through that. But there's just always that, fear in your mind of, you never know, right? So,
Right.
but yeah, luckily I never got to that point.
That's awesome. How many years did the case take total then?
Uh, oof, I mean, would be, my charges were finally dismissed for good. I believe it was like August 3rd of 2023. So, um,
Okay.
4.5 years.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
a long time to be up in the air. I guess COVID added to it too, though, right? You said.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, COVID delayed my trial. And then once it came down to where people could start, I guess you could say being in a courtroom together, right?
Right.
One of their witnesses that they wanted was the Canadian doctor who we took him to, uh, from our camp, right? He was the next provider that took over care for him.
Got
Uh,
it.
and since he was from Canada, Canada would not send him down to. They wouldn't send him to America to trial. They wouldn't send him for a deposition. We all had to go to Canada and depose him there. And that logistical coordination effort took forever. I mean, we didn't get out there to talk to him for the deposition until it was the beginning of November 2021.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and then not to go off on too much of a tangent, but the prosecution ended up not even using that deposition in the trial for Danny and Josh, so
My
it's a waste of
gosh.
time, right? So, well, because we got there and we exposed the guy for being an idiot.
Okay,
So,
got it.
yeah, so that's a whole nother story, which I'd be glad to tell you in a phone call. It's actually pretty funny.
Yeah, it is funny. So
Yeah.
I wonder if that's the reason Canada didn't want to send him down.
Well, I don't think they really knew really what was going to happen. So
Okay.
the bottom line is he messed up a document,
Okay.
um, and we called him out on that, and he realized he made a huge error. And it was funny because when we called him out on it, after we're done with our questions, the prosecution comes over to my lawyers and says, "Hey, do you guys got an extra copy of that? We don't have one."
Oh my gosh.
But and not to take up too much time about this, but it's funny because I'm a medical professional, right?
Exactly.
So
Correct.
all this medical stuff that came out, like I was looking through everything. I looked through every single document of evidence multiple times and found things from my lawyers that they were able to use.
Wow.
The prosecution didn't, I guess, didn't bring in some medical expert to look through the
To
stuff
review everything.
to
Wow.
review. Yeah, exactly. So
Holy cow. That's
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 fine.
great. That's crazy.
Mhm.
So what year did you actually retire or get out?
2023. So
Also,
with
right around the
myself.
time that everything wrapped up.
Oh yeah, I probably set the record for the quickest request to retire and retire in the military. It took yeah, my charges were dismissed on August, like I said, 2nd or 3rd, and I asked for August 31st, and the Navy said sure, go ahead, and I was done.
Wow. That's
Yeah,
amazing. All right. And did you have plans once you got out of the military, what you wanted to do?
yeah, I wanted to move to Michigan and work on my house and golf, and that's what I'm doing.
Nice, nice. That's a good career, man. I need to sign up for that.
It's funny because when people talk about, oh, you have to do something when you get out, you have to have a job or this, it's like, no, you don't. Trust me, you'll be okay.
Right, right. Well, you know what? As long as you're doing something that you love
Hmm.
afterwards, I think that's the key, right? So,
Exactly.
and you love working on your house and golfing, so you're good.
Exactly.
You're good to go, man.
Exactly.
That's awesome. Um, so how important is faith to you, like during all this time?
Uh, it's important. I wouldn't say I'm big into faith.
Okay,
I grew up Catholic,
okay,
so I went through the whole rigmarole of being a Catholic. I would say my religious stance is I do believe, right? I do believe in God. I believe in Jesus. I believe he died for our sins and everything. My big thing with religion is I'm all about be a good person. You know, be a good person, treat other people the way you want to be treated, and just be nice to each other and try to live a good, honorable life. And that's how I view faith.
right, right. Absolutely, man. I think that's Jesus is one of his main statements is to treat others as you want to be treated yourself, right? So I think that's you're right on path there. But yeah, that's awesome. All right. So people that don't know how to succeed because you've had a successful career, right? You did a lot of things that most people don't wind up doing. So if someone that's younger, stuck, or doesn't know what to do, say they're in their 20s, what kind of advice or guidance would you give them to be able to succeed?
Hmm. Well, my first thing is you have to have a sense of purpose,
Right.
right? and you have to find that. So nobody can find it for you, only you can find it. Um, and then the second thing I would tell them is, because I just got done reading this book, so I really like it, is uh, always remember that the obstacle is the way, right?
Okay.
Like you should whenever adversity comes, you should welcome adversity because it will do nothing but make you into a better person.
I'm writing down the name of that book so I could read it. Thank you.
You have got to read that book. It's by Ryan. It's Holiday or Halliday is his name.
Okay.
But he does that. He has the Daily Stoic, and he has some other good books. But I
And
mean,
and and
let's be
I'm
real.
glad you
Every person in America should read that book. Actually,
and I love that you brought that up because not knowing what to do if you're learning from others, right?
hmm
I talked about this with a couple people and actually with Fred Galvin. Make sure you have your mind right, your physical right, and your spiritual right, right? So
yeah.
always be learning, growing, getting better every day.
hmm
So here's a great book that you just talked about. So I love that. And I've been actually having a lot of guests on that have written books. So I'm like 2 or 3 behind, but ever since I started the podcast about a year and 2 months ago, I've gotten back into books again, which I had taken a long gap from it, and it makes a huge impact, big difference. Makes you think outside the box, and I think I know this another. I was going to ask you another question, but I think I may know the answer. How much do you tune into news and stuff for your information, your sources,
Well,
media?
I do jump onto Fox News every day,
Okay,
to kind of see what's going on around the world.
okay,
Uh, so I guess I'm pretty in tune with what's going on.
okay.
So
Gotcha, gotcha. All
yeah.
right, good deal.
Yeah. I don't put a lot of stock in it. I don't let it I don't let it affect me personally, right?
Right,
I think it's
right,
nice to be able to just kind of see like, oh, this is what's going on.
right.
So,
Well, you have to kind of get the different perspectives from everyone and make your own decision, right?
yeah.
A lot of people are they listen to whatever one news network is saying. It's like, you know what? Everyone has an agenda, right?
Yeah.
Whatever their agenda is, go listen to the other sides or other people, and then formulate your own ideas, which I think is a
Yeah.
good way to do it.
I don't dive into the other ones, but I will tell you this one. I will tell you this. Everything I do read on Fox News or listen to, I take with a grain of salt.
Yes.
So I will just say that. Like I'm not dumb, right? Like
Well,
I know they got their own agenda and stuff like that. So um, not to dive into too much political stuff. Like I do not agree with everything I'm a conservative, right? But I do not agree with everything the Conservative Party says or Donald Trump, right?
right,
So
exactly. Yeah,
but that's the
100%.
that's the beauty of being an American is you can disagree with your world leader or with
Yeah.
your you can disagree with your country's leader. So
100%. And we
yeah,
saw that in the military, right? You saw it even more than I did, right?
exactly,
Everyone has their own
exactly.
agenda, so it's like, hey,
Yeah.
grain of salt. So if you were 20 today, would you take
Oh
the
man.
same route or no?
Uh, no. I'll be honest. If I could do
With
I
knowing
could do it
everything you know
over
now.
again, knowing what I know now, I actually would have joined the army
Okay.
to be a ranger because
Nice.
I really respect that organization and what they do. I've always thought the Rangers are they just got a
Badass.
good organization. Yeah,
Yeah.
they got a good organization. I think they run it pretty good. So if I could do it over again, that's probably what I would do.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I've had a couple Rangers on here that are pretty stand-up guys. So,
Yeah,
uh, and one other thing I usually discuss with a lot of these guys is, it's amazing. I was only in the Marine Corps about 6.5 years, but I got out, got the corporate world for a long time. And the old 80/20 rule never seems to change no matter what you do or what industry you're in.
yeah.
And did you see that also in Navy and Marine Corps?
So what do you mean by
So
that?
20% of the people are performers, right? Making things
Okay, okay.
happen.
I know what 80/20 means. I just didn't know what you were referencing it to. Um, I don't know. I'd have to think about that one
Okay.
because yeah, I mean, I guess it's just different where you're at. Like I remember like the teams I was in, everybody was a performer. So, um, I don't know. I guess it probably just depends on where you're at. So,
Yeah, that's true. Okay, that makes sense. What's the best advice a mentor has ever given you about leadership or business or life?
Uh, I mean, I've had a lot of mentors during my time, but one of them, the biggest influences for me in terms of being a leader was, again, I'm going to reference a book
Okay.
uh, called Turn the Ship Around.
Okay.
It's about a Navy submarine commander who took over the command of I think it was the Santa Fe was the sub, and one of the worst subs in the Navy at the time in terms of like retention.
Okay.
And he came in with a an interesting leadership mindset. Basically, his thing was he wanted his men to have a questioning attitude, and it wasn't to question every order uh, because you're being defiant. It was he wanted to give his men a voice to be able to question things if they thought something was wrong, right? Not to
I
just
get
go
it.
through
Yeah.
the motions, right? And uh, so I read that book when I was selected for chief. I was going through the chief season, and they made us do book reports. And I think everybody else kind of just went through the motions, like reading like
Bare
random
minimum.
books,
Yeah.
bare minimum, the Mouse and the Cheese book or whatever the heck that one is called about leadership. I can't remember, something like that. Just reading like footnotes. I read that entire book and wrote a huge report on it because it had such an influence on me.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
well, because I got to a new unit where I was I&I staff for Fourth Recon, and I go from an active duty special operations unit to dealing with reserve sailors, and I did not handle it correctly. I'll just say that. Like
I can imagine. Yeah.
I did not do a good job. And when I read that book, it really opened my eyes to and changed my leadership style. So yeah. So anyways, I have had leaders that have mentored me, but that book had a huge impact on me.
That's awesome. And I'm glad you said that. It's reading and gaining knowledge. It doesn't matter what profession you're in, whether you're back end, front line, business world. You
Yeah.
want to make sure you're growing and learning every day, right? Because
Yeah.
there's so much information out there that we need, that could help us change perspective, change our thinking, and just the way we live our life. I think which is pretty cool. So thanks for sharing another book with us. Thank you.
I mean, I got done reading that book, and I had never had a desire in my career to be on a sub, and I wanted to be a submarine
Oh
commander.
my gosh!
After
Wow.
after I read the book, I was like, man, that'd be so much fun. Like, yeah, it was just cool. It was cool. So
Speaking of being on subs, were you on ships a long time during the Navy when you were in the Navy or no?
never. My entire career was working with Marines.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I did 3 years in the infantry. I did was with 2-6 on a line company, and then I did 2 years and some change in a clinic, but it was at Camp Lejeune, so we were supporting a couple of the schools, right? I was supporting a combat engineer school,
Okay.
those young Marines, and then after that, I became a recon corpsman, and so I spent my whole time
Wow.
working with Marines.
Yeah. The longest I ever was on ship was from Okinawa to Korea, which I think it was like 7, 10 days. And it's like, man, how do these Navy guys stay on here for 6 months? I couldn't get it. It's like this is crazy.
That was 7 to 10 days longer than I've been on a Navy ship.
I got to have a conversation with my brother. I think he did like 21, 22 years in the Navy too, but he did a lot of deployments. So it's like, oh man, I don't know how you did, brother. Um, Eric, it's been a pleasure to have you on today. How can people connect with you if they want to ask more about what happened, or if they have any questions or more recommendations for books?
Uh, I mean, I would probably say through my email is probably the best way to get a
Email?
hold
Are
of
you
me.
on social media a lot or no?
I am not on social media at all, actually. So,
Okay. Do you want to give out your email? If not, that's okay.
yeah, sure, I'll give it out. That's fine.
Sure.
It's AEGEMGWMG at Gmail. So Alpha Echo Golf, Echo Mike Golf, Whiskey Mike Golf at Gmail.
That's email.
Mm.
All right. Perfect. And one of the last questions I usually ask people is, what's one thing that you want our listeners to remember about you?
Uh, I would say probably the biggest thing, because you alluded to it at the beginning of this, and I understand why you did, but you mentioned that I'm most known for what I went through with the MARSOC 3, but that doesn't define me as a
Right,
person. That was just a part of my life. I was just a dude who really didn't know what I wanted to do at the end of high school, so I joined the Navy, and even when I joined the Navy, I really didn't know what I wanted to do because I didn't know anything about the military really. Um, and then I served my country, and I'm a family man, and that's who I am.
yeah, I love that. Absolutely. Yeah, and I think you got more in the limelight per se from that MARSOC 3, but you had a great career, went through some, training that some people never wind up making it through, which is a great accomplishment, right? You served more than 20 years, which a lot of people never wind up doing, right? So
Yeah.
and you seem like a really stand-up guy, so I think you've accomplished a lot more. And it's kind of like we were talking about earlier, segment the different things. Don't get stuck in your head for one thing. Don't think, hey, I'm special operations. That's what I'm all about. You're not all about MARSOC 3, which is great. I could tell that you're living a good life now, brother.
Well, this kind of goes back to our conversation we had before the podcast, a couple weeks ago when we were talking about, advice to give people. And, one thing if I could say anything to anybody that's struggling is just let it go, man. This was just a part of my life, right? Like even, my time in SOCOM, right? Like when you look at the big picture, it's, let's say the whole book of life, right? It's just
Right,
a chapter of it, man. Like it's not the book. It's a chapter in a book. And this is, a lot of guys, I think, especially in this community, have a problem letting it go, right? They think
right.
that's, SOCOM is the best it's ever going to be in my life, and it can never get any better. Like that's just dumb, man. Like do not think that. Do not think that, right? Like don't get me wrong, I miss
You're
it
proud of what you
sometimes.
did. Yeah.
I'm proud of it. I miss it sometimes. I got my Pelican case with all my stuff in it up in the attic. I might crack it open and take a look at it once in a while, but um I don't I don't pine over it, you know. So it's just yeah, that'd be the biggest thing for anybody struggling. Is just let it go, man. Let it go. It's that's not the end all be all. That's not who you are as a person.
Right.
Don't
Yeah,
let
I
it
think
define you.
I think like you said, it was just a segment in our life. We got a bigger mission now, right? Whatever that mission is, it's an open slate. We can make it whatever we want, right? But we're not done. It's like you said, I saw somebody doing an example the other day about how long your life is. He had like a tape measure or something like that. And it's like when you're going through school, part of it's gone, and whatever you do for your career, it's in here. But then you got the other part. So just
Yeah.
once you're done with the other part, don't worry about it. You're not focused about when you were in, some people that, you're not focused about your high school. You're not focused about your college if you went to college, right? It's like,
Yeah.
hey, guess what? Don't focus be proud of your military career because you served our country, right? But that's not you, right?
Yeah. That
That
doesn't
is
define
not
you as
you,
a
brother.
person. Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
Which is awesome. So thank you. That's awesome. All right, brother. Anything else you want to cover or talk about that I'd missed, or anything else that you want to tell anybody before we wrap up here?
Uh no, I think that's it.
Awesome, awesome. It's been an absolute honor to have you on today, brother. Thank you so much for your sacrifice, your leadership, and your example. You didn't just serve; you continue to serve by helping others and by standing up and helping others. Thank you so much. For everyone tuning in, share, follow, and subscribe. These stories need to be heard. These lessons can change lives, which is the goal. Stay focused, stay winning. God bless you, and thank you for listening.